From Piacenza, where he has met with the Polish violinist Lipinski, Paganini goes to Cremona, who chooses him as correspondent member in the Society Filarmonica. In this city, whose name evokes Andrea and Nicola Amati, Stradivari and Guarneri, he meets violinist Carlo Bignami. At Bologna, he arrives at the beginning of June 1818. Here he meets with a circle of famous musicians, from which we mention Padre Stanislao Mattei, a celebre contrapuntist, Professor Rossini and Donizetti, Girolamo Crescentini, Isabella Colbran, violinist Felice Radicati, violinist Danti, violinist Sarti and Pancaldi, violoncellist Annibale Milzetti. In the house of Pegnalver, bankers were held often musical reunions. Here Paganini met for the first time in 1818 Gioacchino Rossini. The two composers became friends and met on several occasions in Italy. Paganini's use of Rossini's melodies was a form of musical tribute, a common practice at the time. From Bologna, as Germi notes, Paganini stays for a couple of days at Florence, where he meets with Francesco Tinti and together they play quartet music. In November, he is in Rome. He has never visited it before and he is amazed by La Città Eterna. The public in Rome, notes Paganini, does not enjoy scientific and philosophical music, only works like waltzes, which are executed by a single flute accompanied by guitar. He observed in his letter to Annibale Milzetti, "The weather was ugly. It was raining heavily and he was forced to change his shoes 10 times per day." From this period dates some of the most full of desperation letters unveiling the extreme sensibility of his soul. The idea of marriage continues to haunt him. He says, "I would love to get married to a very beautiful young lady, and I only wish myself the luck to encounter a being that resembles to me, to whom to unite my destiny with." Once he has the impression that this ideal is represented by a young English lady, but he finds out that she's a Jew and he cannot marry her because Catholic religion did not authorize such marriage, so he wrote full of sadness. "I sighed and almost shed a tear." At this time he encounters with painter Ingres, who made his portrait a very expressive one. First he traced his earlier portrait on translucent paper and then turned over the sheet to enhance details with graphite and gouache, creating a reversed image. Paganini looks straight in front of him. His bulging chest, the left foot stepping forward, and the bow above the arm like a sword, gives him a vigorous presence, combative, attenuated by the dreamy gaze, the thin cheek with prominent arch, and the deep wrinkle on the left pointing to a deep suffering. Not being able to obtain the authorization from the church to give concerts on Friday when all theaters were closed, he leaves for Napoli. Napoli, with its sweet climate, the multitude of flowers, with its thousands of poor Lazzaroni, and the Calabrese, so fond of music that even when working the land, a fiddler leading them, deeply impressed Paganini. At 31 Mars, Paganini gives the first concert at Teatro del Fondo in front of a very numerous audience, but formed by experts. Soon he goes back to Rome, where he holds a concert Tuesday the 20th of April in Theatre Tordinone Hall. The Chancellor of Austria, who listens to him in a private audition, impressed by the exceptional art of the violinist, invites him to Vienna to hold a series of concerts. From now on, we will observe in Paganini's correspondence his wish to hold concerts abroad. At the 20th of June 1819, he writes to Germi, I will hold an artistic tour in Italy, then I'll go to Vienna and from there to Paris and London. From these useful pilgrimages will come out the peaceful rest that I want to procure for the helpless years to come. Here's, my dear, my project, if God gives me life. Paganini holds a concert the 27th of June in 1819 at the Theatre San Carlo. The big hall, reconstructed by Barbaja, was inadequate for a violin concerto because the beauty of the sound would have gone unnoticed in the grandiosity of the hall. However, the famous artist defeated all the difficulties of the place and managed to gain the approval of all the spectators. Wrote Giornale delle Due Sicilie from 29 of June 1819, and Paganini wrote to Jeremy, "Nothing is more flattering for me in the 3 concerts that I held than the praises and the applauses obtained from a public conceited that it can express its opinion in matters of music. It was a very well-trained public and proud of its musical past that did not show much kindness and trust to foreigners." Rossini some years before encountered the reserve of the Napolitans, as did Paganini at his first concert. As Paganini mentioned, the auditors did not expect the signal from the court and applauded him enthusiastically with incessant clapping and evviva that he appeared 3 times in a row. Paganini lives half as a Stoic and half as a prudent Genovese. He lives with economy, conserving his health. He wants to regain his health for the tour he projected for Germany, Berlin, Russia, Prussia, France, and England. In 7 of July 1820, he wrote to Jeremy and he asks him not to neglect to send him always his funny letters because only this can lift my depressed spirit. He confirms to Jeremy that he rolled from a height of 39 stairs that he can still feel on his painful body. Suffering, however, does not stop him from working. In the summer of 1819, he composes and sends to Jeremy the quartets 11, 12, and 13. "Play them thoughtfully with patience," recommends Paganini, "and you will not find them bad." Now he writes a quartet for the Marquise Croza from Genova. In November, he goes with Rossini in Rome, where this one must compose an opera for the Apollo Theatre. The new piece is entitled Mathilde of Chabran. The day fixed for the general repetition, the conductor of the orchestra, Giovanni Bolo, suffers a stroke. Nobody knows the partition. Paganini offers to conduct the show, and he conducts it perfectly at the repetition as well as for the next 3 public representation without any partiture, playing the part of the first violin at the superior octave. During winter, until the beginning of the carnival, he holds a series of concertos at the Valle Theatre and the Argentina Theatre. Then towards spring he returns to Napoli, where he remains during the summer, but in autumn we find him very ill in Parma. Only in April 1822 he feels good enough to go to Milano. His mother and his brother-in-law, very alarmed about his health state, come to take care of him. His health state causes him a lot of suffering, and his mood is so dark that he compares Pavia to a tomb. He refuses to meet the local people, but he receives the numerous strange students that want to visit him. The 26th of November 1823, he writes Jeremy a letter saying, "My dear friend, happy is the one who can leave this world without help from the doctors." His agitated life of concertist brings him from town to town, and in autumn he reaches Venice. Here he meets again Antonia Bianchi, the figurant from Teatro San Samuele from the first tour he did to Trieste. He seemed to have loved her. He promised her the opportunity to participate at his concerts, and for some time he helped her with money in order to learn canto. Perhaps he even promised to marry her because when he found out that she's not faithful to him, he exclaimed in a letter, "I am finally free." When they met again, they started to see each other again, and at the beginning of November 1824, they are together in Trieste on tour. Paganini and Antonia Bianchi, surrounded by the kindness of people in Trieste and caught in the animated life of the city, get out together and make visits. These are happy days, few days they live together happily, and which are reflected in one of Paganini's letters. Violinist Benes from Ljubljana, who had a classical formation, came with a delegation of musicians sent by the local Philharmonic Society to give Paganini an honor diploma. In 1825, after a concert sustained with Antonia Bianchi at Teatro del Fondo, they go to Palermo, where is born the 23rd of July his only son, Achille Ciro Alessandro Paganini. Antonia Bianchi had made come true one of his greatest wishes. He wrote in a famous letter to Donizetti, "Achille, my dear Achille, he is all my joy, he grows up good and handsome, he speaks German very well and serves as my interpreter. He loves me tenderly and I adore him."